Hello folks, and welcome to today's Sunday stream. My name is Lee. I'm a hypnotist, and that's what I talk about here. I talk about hypnosis, and then usually in the later part of the show, usually about 20 plus minutes in, then we do some actual hypnosis based on things that people have said to me that they really like to do or they really want to do. So if that's you, if you find yourself saying, I would like some hypnosis to do blah, and I would like it to be directed to me, send me an email or add a comment below and let me know what it is that you are interested in making happen. So, I will not be doing a stream next week because I am going to Charmed, and I'm very excited about that. What's Charmed? It is a recreational and erotic hypnosis event, and I get to see friends, so I'm very excited about that. I get to see friends that I haven't seen in far too long. We live all over the country, sometimes all over the world, and it's nice to be able to get together with people, even if it's only for short weekends. But anyway, I'm very much looking forward to this, and if you're going, say hi. I'm going to be teaching a couple classes, and I am there for the hypno, so. Hello everyone that is in the room, that is saying hi. Appreciate that in the chat. If you are here and you would like and or subscribe what you hear, I'd appreciate that. If you don't like it, let me know. I can only improve, as can all of us, when we receive valid critiques and criticism that can help us grow as people. So, what are we going to do? I have been... I want to talk to you guys about so many different things, but some of the things that I'm working on kind of have to be hush-hush for a while. But I will tell you that I am planning on doing, I already told you that I have a 5-part series coming, right? So I have this, these sheets. Unfortunately for me, because I don't work well that way, they are like double-sided. So I printed them all out, but they're double-sided, and this also seems very tiny to me. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, how is that possibly 5 audios worth of pages? It's print. The print is so big. I'm one of those people that likes the tiniest font, the smallest margins, cram as much information on a page as there can possibly be. Hello, welcome aboard. This is a thing that I'm going to be working on, and I am going to be recording some of that live stream. Obviously not the whole thing, but some of it is going to be recorded and live streamed for YouTube members, and when that's done, I will make it available to patrons. These files are going to be available in my patron group first over the course of the year, because I hate editing, and even though I have some help now, I'm not often awesome at remembering all the things I have to do. So many alarms set up in my phone almost every single day to remind me of all this stuff that's going on in my head. It's crazy because sometimes there are things that just automatically happen, right? And then there's some things that's I would forget to make them happen. There's 10 things that have to happen with a certain instance, and I would forget one of them, Anyway, so I'm very excited that this is here for you guys. I'm very excited that I'm going to be doing some of that recording. You'll get to see my process. I have literally never, ever, ever tried to live stream me actually recording something before. I mean these, but not anything that I've ever just made in front of a live-ish audience. Potentially, hopefully, who knows. I may flub up more than usual. I don't have that happen when I do these live streams. They just literally don't happen. However, when I go to record something like that or anything else I've ever done, almost anything else, unless it's been a thing where it's just me and the recorder and I just have this idea and it pops in my head and it just all spills out. When I deliberately go to record a script, and this is probably why I mostly just record improvisationally, or maybe with some bullet points. It still sometimes happens with the bullet points that like I start out and like I'm all nervous. I'm not usually a nervous person, and it's funny. It's like it's just me and the microphone and a sheet of paper. What's different about that? I've written the words myself, or I've written them with somebody else, and I usually go through them to make sure that that's how I would say it so that I don't stumble over things when I do them. I have something to drink nearby. And, sorry, the weird. So today I decided I would be a little different. Usually I have water. Today I have ice water with element or elementy, however you want to call it, in there. It's raspberry salt. It's meant for people who like are on low carb diets, so they get enough electrolytes in their system. I also have other electrolyte drinks that are slightly higher in calories but taste way better. This one is like all salt all the time. So usually I mix it up in like a little tiny, it's like a Chinese tea glass. I mix it up in there with hot water, let it cool, and then I like down it as a shot, and then I drink like a whole bunch more water because I don't like the taste. And today I was like, well, the other stuff that I've been having, how bad can it be? Like the other stuff I've been having tastes fine when I just add it to, 20 whatever ounces of water. So today, if you see me making weird faces, it's because no matter how much water I've added to the element, still pretty salty. Yum. So anyway, so I just get all nervous, and I sometimes try to start out a little bit more slowly. You may have noticed if you've heard me talk over the years that I tend to talk pretty quickly, but it's not 100% guaranteed. My speed does vary. If I get really excited about a thing, or if the words just start appearing in my brain and they need to come out of my mouth really fast, sometimes I'm just like rattling on. So I'm sure you've heard that. I'm sure that some part of you might like that I do that. When I was at Hypnothoughts last year, which is in July in Vegas this year, I just got my flights. Pretty excited about that too. But when I was there last year, I went and I listened. They had like this whole cool salon thing set up where you could do different, it was like a tasting event. So different types of things that you could do. And one of the things you could do is just sit there and listen to somebody else's hypnosis audio. And it was really lovely. And the woman's voice spoke very slowly. And she said super nice things into your ears. And it was great, and I felt really good after I did that. I might have done it twice in a row, I don't remember. But there's something about it that was kind of fascinating. You know what? There is someone shouting in my background, and I am in, theoretically, a soundproof space. There is no such thing. There is absolutely no such thing in this house, which is built of cement blocks and is very open plan, as a soundproof space, which is why I have the space that I do. I have this because it's only worse otherwise. So sorry about the yelling in the background. At some point in time, it won't matter. At some point in time, if you're going to be here to listen to the hypnosis, your brain will just focus on the things that I'm saying. Everything else will fade away, and those things really won't matter. But yes, people are screaming in the background in my life all the time. I do not have the loudest voice in the room, almost never. So, and everybody else's voice seems to get picked up better than mine by any other mic. So what are we to do about that? Sometimes I do try to record alone, but it doesn't always work out. So sorry about that. Hopefully you don't find yourself super distracted. But there we go. All right, so I don't know if you've ever tried to record, but I definitely do get like some sort of weird nervous tension in my body, and I can feel it and I can hear it when I, record stuff that's scripted. And so it sometimes takes me multiple tries. So the added pressure of sort of being on camera and having all of my flubs show up may or may not be entertaining for you, but I'm going to be doing them live. If you're a member, you'll get to participate in that. And if you're not, they'll be out eventually at some point in time. The audios and not necessarily the live streams. Those might end up being semi-privated forever. So we'll see how my brain feels about putting my mistakes out there for the world. So I was asking some people last time what it was that they wanted to do, and I received a few comments about that. So things that are always popular are things like fractionation or negative numbers, or things like brainwashing. If you ask for something super sexual, that's not going to happen on a YouTube live stream. It just won't. But if there are things that you all would like to find yourself doing here today, please let me know. We still have some time. I really love when people try to challenge me with the type of things that they want to find themselves going through and experiencing. And sometimes, even if the themes that you come up with or the ideas that you throw at me don't seem to come together, often, my brain can put together something kind of oddly compatible with as many themes as possible. So there you go. I do wish this tasted a little less salty. I don't know how so many people rave about it, and now I'm regretting bringing it in here with me without like a chaser of actual just water. That is what I should have done. Anyway, so the ideas of something like, as I said, fractionation or brainwashing, or, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'll talk about collapsing anchors. Okay, so we've talked about NLP techniques on here before, and anchoring something, which I've talked about a few times, is something that is really powerful. So it basically goes, for example, like, I want to feel this thing, whatever it is, or I want to experience this thing, I want to do this thing, and I want to remember that this thing is better for me, right? So you've had an experience that has not been the most positive in the world, and you would like to instead have a similar experience that is positive, and then that before would have triggered it so you couldn't have even had a good experience with this other thing, right? So you anchor in the thing that isn't so, you anchor in the thing that's awesome right here, I guess. And then this is way more helpful with a person helping you, by the way, but it's not impossible to do by yourself. So you anchor in the thing that is absolutely the thing that you don't want to find yourself experiencing. And you get that to a point where when you touch that spot, like it all comes back and you're like, oh dear God, no, I don't want to do it, right? And then you shake it off. You let yourself let go of that experience, like literally just shaking your hands and arms and you're moving your body around and letting that all go, breathing out really fast, huffing, whatever, can be very helpful. And then you think about the experience that you do want to have. So here's the experience that you do want to have. This is where you didn't want, this is where you do want. And then you allow that experience to be so powerful. And maybe it's like a person that sets off a response in you, or maybe it's a place or a thing or a memory, whatever it happens to be that sets you off in the way that you don't like. So then you think about how you really do want to respond, and you find something maybe similar, and you infuse yourself with as many of the positive attributes that your senses can come up with for that thing. And you then make that happen. You press that button, for lack of a better word, you press that button and you make that happen. You feel all those things and you're like, yes, that is the experience I would like to happen when before that was what I was thinking of experiencing, right? So to collapse the anchor, to make it all go away, you take the negative one, right? And then you take the positive one here and you go, wah, wah, just like that. And then so the moment you touch the negative one, you touch the positive one, and the positive one should overwrite and overwhelm and cancel out the initial one. And then if you touch the initial one, it should bring that sensation and that state back. That's the theory. That's how it works. I've done that in a few different instances. Well, actually a lot, because I used to do a whole bunch of NLP stuff. But I've done that in some instances, and it is like immediate. You can do it with things like, say, fear of flying. You can do it with things like not, being able to drive on the highway. You can do it with things like food that you do or do not like, that you would like to just find yourself eating. You can make all sorts of adjustments and changes to your body and to yourself pretty easily. So all you have to do is think about something that you do that you don't want to do, and you put that here. I'll also talk about how to set it. So when you set an anchor, you want to really inhabit that state. And when you anchor it at like, well, I'm trying to figure out the camera angles, but you want to anchor it at like the 95 to 100%, right? You don't want to catch it on the downward slope. You want to catch it somewhere in here and then let it go, maybe at 99%. So like 95 to 99% is where you like anchor that in, and then you shake it all off. And then you do it again and you touch that spot. Now, if somebody else is doing this for you, if I'm doing that with you, I'm going to have you experience that once without any touching or any anchoring at all, because I want to make sure that I know by looking at you, by watching you, by hearing you, where that 95 to 99% is, right? We want to capture that at almost the peak of that terrible experience. And I know it sounds horrible, right? But you want to be able to go through it once, one more time, so that you don't have to go through it again. That's the whole idea behind this. You experience it one more time, almost as terribly as you possibly can. We anchor that in, and then you clear it off, and you give yourself whatever time you need to start having that experience where something else feels really good and is really exciting for you. So maybe it's like the sense of empowerment or a thrill or some sort of adventure or accomplishment, whatever it happens to be, that in the second spot, and you do the same thing for that. One little trick for that one, though, if you're doing an anchor and you want to make it even more powerful, you're like, okay, so that anchor is this anchor, the good anchor, feels pretty good, but I don't know if it's going to be strong enough to overwrite that one, right? This is what I do. I take my hand and I put it over that good spot and I just go up. And I will literally keep doing this until, if you do this with somebody else, you can watch their body and their whole expression completely change to one of almost pure delight. It's so bizarre that just by going up, you can let those experiences and those sensations, all the senses, just heighten dramatically. And it becomes a really powerful, powerful thing. So if that sensation isn't strong enough to overwrite this one, or you don't think it is, you just make that one so much stronger, and then you allow yourself to collapse that first anchor. So you touch, let go, and then you can make it even stronger and even better. And then when you touch that first one, it should completely have dissolved and disappeared. So that's how you finally have yourself doing it. Yeah, it can be so, it's like every time I hear somebody has something that is holding them back, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of things that hold them back, honestly, me included. But if you have something that holds you back, whatever it is, whether it's a fear of flying, whether it's a food that you don't want to eat that makes you uncomfortable in public or something like that, or makes other people, say unpleasant things, or whatever it happens to be. You procrastinate. You find yourself having a hard time studying. You have a boss that just sets you on edge. Whatever it happens to be, you can find yourself adjusting and editing your own responses so that the way you respond is a way that actually brings you happiness. You may or may not like having that response, which it might be kind of weird. I definitely know people that, at least at the beginning, especially people who change what they eat. At the beginning, they might have been like, ew, vegetables. And then afterwards, they're vegans. So, like, I find that kind of strange. You have to make sure that they are going to be happy to have that response for whatever reason. But all of these things can make such a huge impact on your body and on your mind and on your state of mind and in the way that you find yourself living. And why not live the best life that you possibly can? So, yeah. So, all right. So while you guys are here, we've definitely done some stuff to allow you to sort of be new year, new you. We can continue on that path. I'm going to be doing a few more additional things like that help you reset yourself for whatever comes and whatever it is that you're looking for. We'll probably also do a whole bunch of brainwashing type things and a whole bunch more submission-based things and a whole bunch more negative number type things. But if there's anything that piques your interest today, let me know what that is. Because I'm so happy to be here getting to talk to you guys. So if you have something that you would like to find yourself doing, let me know what that is. I'll give you a moment. So I'm going to talk about Charmed again for a second. Right after this, or pretty much after this, I'm going to have a brainstorming session for 10 years of hypnotic amnesia, which I'm thrilled by. If you've never found yourself experiencing hypnotic amnesia, that's fine. Not everyone does. There are some people who find that they do it pretty automatically. Like, I am one of those people. When I go into trance, there are, most of them, depending on what it is, like, I have chunks of time in the middle and I have no idea what the heck happened. Sometimes I do remember them really clearly, and sometimes I, remember basically what it's all about. But oftentimes, just my brain has a good complete blank in the middle, and I think it's lovely. How can you practice it? So that's an excellent question. Strangely enough, it involves you rather trusting yourself. So when I do amnesia with somebody, and it's not the only thing that it involves, but that is a huge step, because you have to be able to say, I know that my brain isn't going to let me do something in that middle that won't be good for me. You can't always know ahead of time if you're going to like something or not, but your brain can protect you in a lot of ways. You just don't want it to be overprotective, because if you're trying something new, you don't want it to shut it down before that happens. You want your brain to be able to allow you to hear what's going on, to maybe test it out and try it out and see how it is for you before you do a thing. Maybe you want your brain to be able to go, okay, we did this thing, we don't like it, we're gonna rewind a little bit. But so you can test out amnesia by letting your brain do it, by trusting that you're going to do it, and then saying, okay. So if I'm working with somebody and they want to forget something, but they always remember it. So usually what I do is I do a parts process thing where I basically say, hey, brain, or all the parts of you that are responsible for remembering / forgetting. For the next 5 minutes, I'm going to ask if you could allow the subject to forget what it is that I'm going to talk about. And then 5 minutes later, when they're back up, allow them to remember it all. Especially if there's somebody that has a really big grasp on everything that they've heard. Like, if I do an hour session with somebody, the chances are good that neither you nor I are going to remember everything that happened in that session. I may have a better overall grasp of it, but my memory is so good at forgetting things, which is why I have all those alarms on my phone. But yeah, if I can go pretty deeply in trance. I listen to other people's. I'm not sleeping because I definitely wake up with the awakener. And it feels so interesting. Do I always know that I'm responding to everything that's happened? No, which is one reason why giving a post-hypnotic suggestion can be really useful. So a post-hypnotic suggestion that allows you to know that you were deeply entranced, to know that you responded to whatever the suggestion is helpful. So I ask the unconscious mind, if for 5 minutes, would you allow yourself consciously to forget whatever it is that I'm talking about and still allow yourself to find that you respond to it, like another different kind of trigger or suggestion. But your unconscious mind can remember absolutely everything. Because I want to develop a relationship of trust with the person that I'm hypnotizing too. But if you, as a whole person, really, really, really would like to be able to experience amnesia, let's go for it. Let's see how we can make that happen. And so when you trust yourself enough to know that your brain is going to carefully take care of yourself in any way that you need to, that makes it easier, right? When you trust that you can have the information back if you needed to, that's helpful too. I'm not trying to hide anything that I say. So your brain should be able, if you wanted to recall most, if not everything. Unless you're really great eidetic memory, you may not be able to recall absolutely everything that I've said for 20 minutes, an hour, however long it happens to be. But your brain, you have to trust it. When you trust that your brain will do a thing, you can even say, hey, brain, I would like to be able to forget the meat of the session, and I would like to then be able to remember the important stuff at this time later. So you can do that yourself, or I can help you do that. It doesn't matter, but you can train your brain to say, yes, for 5 minutes we will do this thing. And then I usually say, and if that works, if you feel comfortable allowing your brain to forget 5 minutes worth of fairly standard, innocuous, hypnotic language, and then you remember it later, is that a thing that you could expand upon? Could you do that for a whole session that you've listened to, especially one that you've listened to before? And that's a good tip, I would say. If you listen to any, or if you've had a session with a hypnotist and you have that CD and you think you know it, to listen again and to see if you still have that same sense of, I remember what goes on here. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But you can practice that. Now, there are some people who I have had sessions with who wanted to forget something. And they have, they've gone through a lot of the techniques in the book. They have never really had a great ability to do those things. But I'm pretty determined. So I can work with somebody, because maybe what they say about how they forget or how they remember, if there's anything at all that they have forgotten, I usually say to their brain, I'd like you to think about things that you have forgotten in the past, and think about things that you could put these hypnotic suggestions or this hypnotic session into that same sort of bucket of information as those other things that you have forgotten. Because we forget all sorts of stuff. Humans are so good at forgetting all sorts of stuff. So if you are forgetting all sorts of stuff anyway, and you want to forget hypnotic sessions, trust yourself, let yourself, forget for a short period of time, remember later, but you can allow your brain to use the same pathways that it uses to forget other stuff to put this information in. If there's anything really important, allow your unconscious mind to remember what that is, and your unconscious mind can just share it with your conscious self. And if your conscious self says, so this may be a controversial take, I firmly believe that when we're conscious and when we're unconscious, that those are not the same states. I have met people with very, very wildly different personalities from their conscious to their unconscious, and I'm not saying they have split personalities. I am just saying that their unconscious self feels that the conscious self is not the same thing as the unconscious, knows that they have different capacity and capability. That's my personal experience. Yours may be vastly different. I don't know. But I've had fair amount of experience with people like that. So that's why I always talk about the conscious and the unconscious, because in my experience, we've got them both, and they're not the same, and it's kind of fun. So if the unconscious mind is happy to share information, and it usually is, it can do it at any later point in time. I will tell you one of my favorite things to do that I have done for a long time, years and years, and I keep doing it, is I ask somebody to go into trance on their own. When they're in that state of trance, to write on a piece of paper something like, I'm deeply hypnotized, take a picture of themselves, email it to themselves. Like, I don't need to know. You're convincing yourself, right? I know anybody could forget something if they really, really wanted to, or almost anybody could forget anything if they really, really wanted to. And then you can discover it, come out of trance, throw away the piece of paper, come out of trance, and then you can discover later that you've done this thing that hopefully you don't remember. Now, sometimes people don't have faith that they can do it, so they don't do it. Or they don't have faith that they can do it. This is faith in themselves, so they don't make it happen. But the more you find yourself absolutely wanting to experience amnesia, that is one of the safest ways that I can think of for you to do it, because it takes, 30 seconds to a minute to do all those steps. And then, to go into trance, to write the thing, take the picture, email it to yourself, throw away the evidence, come out of trance, go about your day. Some people are just really, really great at making that sort of thing happen. Some people need a little bit more convincing, or a little bit more, either, again, a little bit more trust in themselves that their unconscious mind won't allow them to do something that's going to be harmful or hurtful to themselves. So a lot of people I'm definitely more like that. My tube, I definitely forget the deepest parts. I remember the very beginning, the very end, if I'm lucky. Maybe something that stands out inside me, but I'm also the kind of person, I have the best dreams in the world. I love my dreams so much. I want to be able to capture and save them, because I want to know what happens. But, that's only the moments before you're awake, right? So I can feel them in the morning, and I can experience them in the morning when I'm waking up. If I wake up without an alarm, that is. And they are so phenomenal. I absolutely adore them. I had a really great one yesterday. And then, as soon as I'm actually awake, all gone. Nothing left of those dreams. And it's sad. I just want all my dreams. I have some brief images in my head of a few of my dreams over the years. The first one from when I was 4, which was a nightmare, but I still remember that one. Now it brings me some sort of warm comfort. And then a couple others, and they're just great. I just want more and more and more of those experiences to be memorable for me, and I haven't yet made that happen. So I'm better at amnesia than remembering. But if something is written down, or if somebody reminds me something, sometimes it just whoosh, all comes flooding back. So, all right. So what are we going to do today? We can also talk about some amnesia stuff. So maybe we'll do a little bit of fractionation, some negative numbers, and some amnesia. Does that sound good to people in here? Just let me know if you like those ideas. So fractionation, negative numbers, amnesia. Think about what you might want to forget. Don't think about what you'd like to forget. Just let yourself forget something. Because I can always tell you to forget something, but I feel like it's better if there's a thing don't do something that you really need to know. Don't forget that stuff. Forget something unimportant. And then when it pops up later, you can be like, oh yeah, I remember this thing. Especially if you're the kind of person who is like me. And then you set yourself an alarm, and you thought you did it, or you thought you didn't do it, and you should have done it. I don't know. Don't be like that. All right. I may do this in a couple parts, because I'm trying to avoid the ad in the middle. If the ad pops up in the middle for you, I would like you to just let yourself tune out the ad and allow yourself to stay deeply in trance. You can use it like fractionation. You hear a voice other than mine, you can drop down deeply in trance. You can open up your eyes. You can click or skip or whatever it is that happens. And you can stay deeply in trance while you do it. That's a good practice. In fact, I have done so much hypnosis in loud spaces like parties and stuff like that. And at some point in time, usually what happens is that every other sound but the sound of my voice gets drowned out. Especially, or maybe not especially, but even if I'm doing this in a place where where people do not speak English as a first language, and they are surrounded with other familiar sounds that may or should be more familiar to their brain. Well, let's see what happens. I'm happy to give you all that same suggestion and see if you remember it. You can remember that I talked about it, and maybe you don't remember that you've done it, but let's let your brain decide. I'll give you all that suggestion. I've already talked about it. You've heard about it. You know what it is. No, I'm not hiding anything. And that way your brain can have a good time with it. So anyway, if you hear the ad, you can just ignore it. You can open your eyes. You can stay in trance. You can skip it, whatever. And we'll just go on from there. You can treat it like it's going to take you down deeper into trance when you click that skip button. How about that? Or however it works, because I don't really know. I'm not usually on that side of my streams. All right, here we go. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it out. Find yourself getting more and more comfortable. And as you allow yourself to get more and more comfortable, you can notice that the sound of my voice just floats right into your brain. That your unconscious mind can feel really good at hearing what I'm saying and in acknowledging that you're going to do your very best to respond as powerfully and positively to it as you possibly can, and that you can allow your unconscious mind to always make sure that it is, in fact, taking care of you to the best of its ability, even though what exactly that means can and will and should change over time as you grow and develop as a person. So allow your brain to think about how good it feels for you to find yourself in a state of trance. Do you know just how to let yourself sink and drop down there? If you're the kind of person that likes to keep your eyes open, you can find yourself doing that by staring fixedly at something, noticing the changes that happen as you stare at that. For me, I get like a tunnel effect around me and whatever it is that I'm staring at. And at some point in time, it feels like I am either moving closer or further away from that, or it is moving closer or further away from me. I can't even tell you which is which. This is simply the experience that I have. But I know that when I see those things, when I feel those things happening, because the moving is an internal sensation for me, that I am in trance. You don't have to be in a very deep state of trance, but you can notice that perhaps the state of trance you find yourself in does intensify, does become more relevant, more meaningful, more obvious to you. Or maybe you experience something totally different. I don't know what that is. I'd love to know what it is that you find yourself experiencing. But in the meantime, as you listen to the sound of my voice, you can find yourself fading away from the conscious world. You can perhaps notice that the sound of my voice is the only thing that comes through your ears, and that the more you find yourself in that state of listening and paying attention to the things that I'm saying on that unconscious level, that your conscious self just feels maybe like it slides away. If your conscious self doesn't slide away and it wants to stay right there, have at it. Have a good time with that. But the point of this whole thing is to allow you to become a better subject through doing hypnosis over and over again, to allow your brain to get the messages that it requires in order to have everything click into place. And when everything clicks into place, you can notice that you trust yourself enough to know that you're going to accept the messages that you are prepared to accept right now, that you are going to remember and or forget the things that you need to remember and or forget, and that you can allow yourself to enjoy the experience as comfortably and as powerfully as you can, no matter where you are. And perhaps you notice that the more deeply in trance you go, or the more lightly in trance you are, no matter what that happens to be, that your brain can always hold you in the right space for the things that I say to have the most powerful and profound effect for you, for your benefit. I'm not doing this for my benefit. I mean, I guess I am on some level, but really the trance itself and your experience in that, your participation in going into trance is for you. It's all about how well you can find yourself responding, how well you can find yourself giving in, and how well your unconscious mind responds to learning new ways to make things happen for your own brain. If you find yourself thinking, I don't know how to do that, that's a conscious response. Allow your unconscious mind to think about other similar experiences that you may have had so that your unconscious mind can go, oh, well, we did something like this. What if we try this on that? If that doesn't work, you can try something else. But allow your brain to think about how fascinating it is to know that you already have the answers on how to make things happen in your own brain, and you can just let that happen. So as you find yourself in that state, go ahead and drop down more right now. Go ahead and find yourself sinking and dropping more powerfully and easily. And not that I've counted already, but if you were wherever you are, and then I asked you to go to -2, can you just allow your brain to do that right now? Can you allow your brain to be in this place where the negative numbers automatically happen while you find yourself dropping down to -2, whatever that means to you? Allow your brain to also realize that with every single breath in, you can come a little bit closer to consciousness, and with every breath out, you can find yourself dropping down more deeply and powerfully and easily into a state where your brain knows how to say yes. Your brain says, yes, I can do this thing. Yes, I will do this thing. Yes, I did this thing. And allow your brain to know how powerful it is when you get to that state, for you to have this improvisational yes and experience inside you over and over and over again. -4. Let yourself just keep going down deeper into trance. The more your brain realizes how good it feels to be deeply in trance. The state of trance is irrelevant. I already told your unconscious mind that no matter how deeply in trance or wide awake you were, you can find yourself at the perfect state, the perfect place to hear the sound of my voice and the things that I'm saying, and to have that have the most impact for you. To have those suggestions really take hold in a beneficial way for you. So allow your brain to think about how easy that is to do that while you breathe in and breathe out and fractionate yourself, and notice that now you can go to -6 just like that. The more your brain does these things, the more wonderful it can feel. So allow your unconscious mind to delight in how good it feels to keep sinking, to keep dropping, to keep giving in, to keep experiencing something that feels really, really good for you. The more it feels great, the more inclined every single part of you is to think of that as a reward. And when you reward yourself for doing something, your brain wants to do it again and again. So allow your unconscious mind to think about the things that you find yourself wanting to do, how good they can make you feel, and how important it becomes for you to realize that you can do this for yourself, that you can allow yourself, -8, to simply drop down so much more deeply into a state of trance that feels phenomenal and that allows you to actually learn what you're capable of doing, and to become more and more capable of doing these things as time goes on. -10. As your brain thinks about how good it feels to just drop down deeply into trance, to just plunge down more thoroughly into that state, enjoy what it's like to be there. Let your unconscious mind know that at some point in time, if you let yourself do this, if you trust yourself enough to let go and to let this happen, that you can be in a state where your conscious self doesn't know what's going on. And your conscious self can always become reacquainted with what goes on, because your unconscious mind can tell you what happened. And I'm not advocating for lying. Your unconscious can just be like, hey, this is what happened. But in the middle of the experience, let yourself have the experience. Let yourself feel what it's like to be in a state of trance that is for you different than when you are conscious. Different than when you are, I don't know, being online and scrolling through stuff, because that can be an altered state as well. Allow your brain to think about -12, how good it becomes for your brain to be in that place where it just becomes more and more amazing for you to be in that state of trance and for it to feel good. You can accept suggestions whether you're wide awake or deeply in trance, but allow your brain right now to think about how good it feels to be in this state, to reward yourself for being in this state, -14, and to allow the reward itself to become something that you find yourself looking for and seeking out. And as you find yourself in that state of thinking about how good it feels to be in trance, let it become easier for you. let it become more automatic for you. Let your unconscious mind realize that, especially if you listen to something that you have listened to in the past, you can allow yourself to trust that your brain will do for you whatever it needs to in order to keep you safe. But that thing does not have to include you holding on to every word, every piece of information that has been tossed at you, so that you can find yourself experiencing the delight of going, oh my God, I finally learned how to forget something on command, even if it's by your own command. So the suggestion I gave you all, -16, -18, was to allow your brain, when you're done this session, when this session is over, you can allow your brain to know that you are simply going to put yourself in trance at some later point in time. Don't wait too long, a few days at most. Put yourself in trance. Allow your unconscious mind to remember how to forget. Hold up a piece of paper that you've written on that says, I am deeply hypnotized. Take a picture of yourself holding that sign. Email it to yourself. Throw away that piece of paper. And then once you've emailed it to yourself, you can come out of trance. You can forget about it until at some point in time you check that email and are like, oh, when did I do this? You'll see when you did it. But let it be a fun surprise for you. Let your unconscious mind think about how fun that is. I like to think of the unconscious as a co-conspirator with me to make fun things happen for your conscious self. Allow your brain to think about how fun it will be for you to discover that you have done this thing that in the past, perhaps, you never thought that you could. A lot of people think that they are incapable of moving about in trance. A lot of people think that they do not know how to have a waking state of trance, which is where it looks perhaps like they are conscious. They are doing things, their eyes are open, and yet they can find themselves not knowing and not remembering because they've been doing that unconsciously. So allow your conscious self, -20, to just think about how good it feels to make this thing happen. Let it happen. Trust that you're going to make it happen, that your brain can be good at doing this. Is this a big step for you? Maybe. If it's a big step for you, congratulations if you make it happen. If not, notice that you can keep working on it, and every step that you do get, just thank yourself, because sometimes we need the encouragement on the steps that we do make happen. If you like put yourself in trance and you wrote on a piece of paper and then you sort of woke up, congratulations on getting as far as you did. Next time, right? Next time, because you don't just do a thing once and say, oh, I'm a loser, I'm terrible at this. No, you say, oh, I did this thing and I didn't get the whole thing through, but look, I made this whole thing happen. If you're a game player and you fail and you die, you don't give up, you just keep going. And in this instance, you have an infinite number of lives to keep trying at becoming good at amnesia, hypnotic amnesia. So allow your brain to think about how fascinating it is that you can do this at all. Let your brain think about how fun that is, -25, that you can make this happen at all. And the more your brain makes any part of this happen, let your unconscious mind feel really good about it. Let yourself celebrate how good you are, how good you're becoming, what it is that you're capable of. These are only the first baby types of steps of this sort of thing. So let your brain think about how absolutely, utterly fascinating it is, -30, to know that you can listen to the sound of my voice right now, that sometime later in the future, you can find yourself going into trance, writing something on a piece of paper, taking a picture of it, emailing it to yourself, throwing the evidence away, coming out of trance, unaware, and then you discover that later, whenever that happens to be. -35. Let your brain think about how very good it feels for you to know that it is so powerful when you allow your unconscious mind to develop its abilities. When you talk to your unconscious mind, or I'm talking to your unconscious mind, but when you talk to your unconscious mind and you tell it how capable it is, and you tell it how awesome it is, and you tell it that you know it can do a thing. I know your brain can do all sorts of things. Let it happen and allow your unconscious mind to just think about how fascinating it is that it can do all of these things and other things that we haven't even come up with yet. Let your unconscious mind think about how fun it is to make these things happen and for your conscious self to be unaware. It's like a little party trick. It's a fun little party trick that you can do all with yourself, -40. And the more your unconscious mind thinks about how good all of these things can be to experience, the more your brain gets excited to experience these things, the more eager you are to do them, the more naturally it's going to come. Whether or not you remember everything that I have said in this session, -50, or not, it doesn't really matter, because the important thing is for you to find yourself going into trance or going into an altered state, allowing your unconscious mind to realize that you have capacities and powers deeply within you that you can activate and you can make things happen with. And all you have to do is trust yourself enough to realize that you can allow this to happen. The more you find yourself in that state of allowing this to happen, the better it can be. Oh, let's do something cruel, right? Or fun, take your pick. -100. Can you find yourself just sinking and plunging down so very deeply into that state, at that thought and that idea? Does it take a while for you to get there? Now, wherever you've gotten to, maybe that number that you've gotten to, that place in your head you've gotten to, your brain can remember that now. And we're going to put you into an express elevator that is going to bring you up, 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 up. So easily and so powerfully. Allow that to bring you up in a way that your brain feels really good about, in a way that makes you feel like you are rising very quickly, coming awake, feeling incredibly good about that. Let's find that you end up around -10 right now. Can you find yourself there right now, -10? And then go to -9, -8, -7, -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Take a nice deep breath in. Open up your eyes. 9. Wiggle and stretch around a little bit. Get comfortable. And 10. Wide awake. Let your brain hold on to how good you can feel. Come back to the world. If you remember what I talked about, congratulations. If you don't remember what I talked about, congratulations. But do let me know how good your brain is at some later point in time at allowing you to experience in an old way or in a new way amnesia for yourself. If you write something funny down on that sheet of paper and you want to share it, go ahead. I would love to know what your brain wants you to tell yourself. If it's not, I am deeply hypnotized, is it something else? I don't know. Mush brain. Isn't that fun? Yeah, right? It's kind of weird because there's nothing deep per se about an altered state like a trance state, but it's not quite the same. That's excellent. That's excellent. Yeah. Well, I hope your dreams are all good. So, however you guys found yourself responding, we'll do a little bit more of these. Not next Sunday. Not next weekend. I'm going to be gone. There will be no session unless I do something during the week, and probably not because I'm going to be packing and stuff like that. And Monday's a holiday. I may come to record on Monday because I can. And I have all federal holidays off. I don't know how long it was. I don't check either. Sorry. But, so I may do some live stream recording on Monday as a special treat. So we'll see how that goes. And otherwise, I just want to thank you all for being here and participating. I dearly love hearing what you have to say about what you think your brain's current capacity is. And, I'm glad to know what word you like, Roman. Take your pick, right? Some people think it's cruel. Some people are like, oh, more of that. Thank you. So, all right. I will be back in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Thank you for liking and subscribing if you haven't already. I dearly appreciate all of your efforts to come here and to be deeply in trance for yourself and myself. So, all right, I'll see you guys later. Bye. Oh.